Awesome. All right. So where we're gonna kick off, and dive in is hopefully where we left off last week. Rob wasn't here, and clearly I need an adult. So we're gonna be on page 18 and diving in. Now, I believe we covered 18, the first paragraph, but I think it's helpful to reiterate what we went through before. So why don't we just kick it off at the very, very top of page 18? So, and also my dog is here, and he's lying on the floor and he's having a snooze. But he has got some snoring that is not his fault. And he's having a hard time, so I'm not gonna like move him. But like just if you hear a noise in the background, I don't have gas. It is the dog, and now nobody's gonna believe me. Anywho, oh hi buddy. Sorry, I didn't mean to wake you up. The thought of me having gas, he decided to leave. Alrighty, so page 18, I hope everyone's there. An illness of this sort. And we have come to believe this an illness involves those about us in a way that no other human sickness can. If a person has cancer, all are sorry for him, and no one is angry or hurt. And this is a radical idea. In the 1930s, when book was published in 1939, the idea of alcoholism being an illness was a radical idea. It was not widely accepted. There was an article printed in Lancet, a medical journal, in 1937, but it wasn't like everyone was like, yeah, it's an illness. It was quite commonly referred to as a moral failing, of being a weak will, of being not a good person. And I know that's how I felt when I got here. And so this idea of alcoholism or addiction or compulsive whatever brings you to this all-inclusive study, being an illness is a radical idea for somebody like me. Because I come to the rooms like this with people like you, and I just think I'm a failure and I'm a loser and I'm a piece of garbage and I'm just not trying hard enough and I just don't want it enough. And what the book is saying is that you are ill. You are ill. This isn't about you being bad. This is about you being up against an illness over which you could not possibly have any power. And it says if a person has cancer, all are sorry for him, and no one is angry or hurt. And I believe it was Clancy I. And he would talk about how he would go and do H&I work and at the local hospital, and he would go to the alcoholic ward. But to travel to the alcoholic ward, he had to pass the cancer unit, and he had to pass through the AIDS ward at the height of the AIDS epidemic. And he reflected upon that idea that like, man, like this illness is as terminal as those illnesses. And this illness is as devastating as those illnesses are. But if you were able to show up to either one of those wards, either one of those hospital units and say, I have a solution, I have a way out, you don't have to die this horrific death. You're going to have to write some inventory. You're going to have to share it with somebody. You're going to have to be willing for God to change you. You're going to have to go and make things right and rock and roll that as a way of life and go help others. There wouldn't be that same fight. And he would reflect on how he would go to the alcoholic unit and there'd be the same old drunk. And it'd be like, you're going to come to the meeting tonight? No, I don't need to go to the meeting. There's something about my illness that resists treatment. You know what I'm saying? There's something about mine, but mine is just as devastating. Now, bear with me. It goes on to say, so with cancer, all are sorry for him and no one is angry or hurt, but not so with the alcoholic illness. For with it there goes annihilation of all the things worthwhile in life. And if you think annihilation, I always imagine I have a bit of a visual brain that just comes up with metaphors, much to many a person's chagrin. Prepare to be chagrined. That's not how you use that in a sentence. But whenever I think annihilation, I think of like if you've ever seen videos of like atomic bomb testing, you know what I mean? Where the atomic bombs are getting dropped. And it's like they have this testing site. and it gets leveled to the ground to the point where you can't even, like, you can't tell that anything was there. Man, when I think annihilation, I think of that. So all the structures of everything that was worthwhile in my life is leveled to the ground to the point that you can't even see that those things were in my life. That makes sense. That and deeper than that has that not been my experience? The things that brought me joy, the things that were so important to me, they're gone. And it's almost like they never existed. And it says it engulfs all whose lives touch the sufferers. And I have that same visual. I think of that mushroom cloud as it like spreads and spreads, and anyone that has any sort of interaction with me can be and is affected by my illness. And truly, I've done some work in Al-Anon. I need it, like clearly in the Al-Anon literature, it was so interesting. The people that qualify for Al-Anon don't even have to have met the alcoholic. It could have been a great grandfather that they never met, but the alcoholism still ran through the family. You know what I'm saying? The pain and the suffering. And that was powerful. That idea that, man, my alcoholism could hurt people I might never meet. But by that same token, my recovery might help people that I might never meet. There's a ripple effect that happens when we recover, a ripple effect that happens when we're living this way of life, not just bottle down, pipe down, but live in this way of life. There is a ripple effect that happens. So it says it brings misunderstanding, fierce resentment, financial insecurity, disgusted friends and employers, warped lives of blameless children, sad wives and parents. Anyone can increase the list, man. The people that we hurt and the pain and suffering that we cause. And keep in mind, when I got here, I did not know what was wrong with me. I did not know what it meant to have this illness. And again, I thought I was bad and I was wrong and I didn't care enough. And I did not know. But when I start to see that this is an illness over which I could not possibly have any power, it helps me to understand the baffling things in which I've done. And the most baffling thing which I have ever done is gone back to the first drink or the first drug, despite knowing beyond a shadow of a doubt it has and will continue to ruin my life. And so it goes on to say, we hope this volume will inform and comfort those who are or who may be affected. There are many. So not just the alcoholic, and for us, not just the addict, the compulsive, whatever brings you to this study, but there are those who love us who are affected. And this might be Sandy Beach. You can let me know if I'm misquoting anyone. Please, but I think it was Sandy Beach, but it might be some other people who said our job is to comfort the disturbed and disturb the comforted. You know what I mean? Like, yeah. And some of you are like, yes, Paige, you are quite a little chaos gremlin. That's me. I'm here to bring comfort and gremlin-y. Oh, that's not a word. And we can ask ourselves, is this not our experience? It says highly competent psychiatrists who have dealt with us have found it sometimes impossible to persuade an alcoholic to discuss his situation without reserve. Has your experience been mine? Where I go to psychologists, I go to counselors, I go to therapists, I go talk to professionals in the medical and mental health community, and I'm not fully honest about what's going on. And I'm not telling them the full amounts. Has that been your experience too? It might just be me. Sometimes I do this and then I don't get a little nods and I'm like, ooh, some are sicker than others. It's me, I'm the sick one. Yeah, you know what's up. But also, a friend of mine was telling me that when doctors and people in the medical and like psychiatric sort of like community get their like training and education, somebody told them, and I wasn't one of you, because somebody told them, whatever, if you suspect they have like alcoholism or drug addiction, whatever number they give you, triple it. Who told them? Who was it? Which one of you is telling them that? Because that is rude to like call us, not you, but call me out like that. You know what I'm saying? But like, is that my experience? I got those walls, I got those masks. I'm gonna lie about what's really going on to the people that are trying to help me. And then it says, strangely enough, wives, parents, and intimate friends usually find us even more unapproachable than do the psychiatrist and the doctor. You know, that spouse, mom, dad, the people that tend to love us the most, the people that I'm closest to, aren't those the ones that I have the walls with the most? They try to tell me anything about my drinking, my drug use, my behavior, and I turn into. I used to watch a lot of Maury when I was a kid, Maury Povich, yeah, because I would take a lot of mental health days from school, and I would watch Maury, and they'd have those troubled teens and be like, "Y'all don't know me." Like I turn into one of those guys on Maury, like y'all don't know me. I do what I want, you know. Uh, when it's my family and my loved ones and those closest to me, there's something about them where just the walls go up, and is that not our experience? And this is a page as we go into the later chapters and we see some of the suggestions in working with others and some of the suggestions in Two Wives. We're going to see that this is not that those are not unique ideas, that I cannot often hear suggestions from those that are closest to me. So who can I hear from? Who am I open to receiving information from? And it says, but the X. Now this is in italics, so this is important. Now I will say that I used to talk about how, like in the 1930s, to put things in italics, they would have to spend extra money to put in the things. Now we did some investigating. We went on a little Batman mission. Woo! Turns out that would have only been the case like up to the 1930s, and in the 1930s they had a more effective way. So it wasn't as important. But what's the takeaway from that myth? The takeaway is if it's in italics, then it's important. So let's pay attention. Now, I'm not calling anyone else. I'm not saying you pay attention. Really, whenever I'm ever saying pay attention, let's be honest, we know I'm talking to me. I'm a little all over the place. I need the reminders. Often I'm like, focus, focus. So we shall focus. All righty. But this is who we are open to. It says, but the ex-problem drinker who has found this solution, that's important. This solution, you know what's up? This one right here, spiritual awakening as the result of the 12 steps. But the ex-problem drinker has found this solution, who is properly armed with facts about himself, facts about myself. So what does that look like? So what that looks like is I am an alcoholic or an addict or, whatever fellowship you belong to, whatever brings you to this all-inclusive study, who has taken this course of action, who has recovered. The light is on in my eyes. There's a hope in my spirit. It is awakened in a way that I never thought possible. And I know what it means to be somebody with this illness. I have experienced firsthand with the allergy that once I start, I can't stop. You know that feeling? I start and it sets off that little switch and I need more. And the more that I do, the louder that more gets. But I also have experience firsthand with the mental obsession. When I said I don't want to do it again, when I say I know I want to be sober, I say I have to be sober, I need to be sober. And I do it again, and I do it again, and I do it again. You know what I'm saying? Does that sound familiar? And so that is what I need. I need the solution, but I also need to share my experience with the physical allergy and the mental obsession. And it says properly armed, and Howard got the arms going. I don't know what the reversal thing is though. Is that me going in circles? Because I'll do that. I'm a little whirlpool. Also a maelstrom. If you're wondering, that's what a maelstrom is. The etymology lesson right in the middle of me having an ADHD moment. It's good. It's good. Today's going to be worse than normal. It's good. Alrighty. So it says, can generally win the entire confidence of another alcoholic in a few hours. Until such an understanding is reached, little or nothing can be accomplished. And maybe you guys know that experience of sitting down with another alcoholic or another addict or another compulsive gambler, overeater, anorexic, bulimic, codependent. Maybe you know what that's like. And it feels like, man, how did they know? That feeling they drank the way that I drank. They used the way that I used. They did some of the things that I did. They know what it's like to say, I don't want to do it again. And they went back to it. And here they are, a radically different person. Do you know what I mean? That experience, that I've been where you've been. I've done the things that you've done. I've experienced what you've experienced, and I have found a way out. Man, that is a message of depth and weight. And that is what I am called to bring, a clear-cut message. If you have the illness that I have, I've got a course of action that can help you get to the place that I'm at today, that place of spiritual awakening. And in parts of Canada, Ontario, that's where Rob lives. They call this next part of the book the sponsorship contract. And so you can make a little note that it's sometimes in certain places in the world called the sponsorship contract. But what we're talking about is who I am called to be when I work with others, when I sponsor others. Now, I know there's nobody here who would ever be pedantic. No one. Not looking at either of the history husbands here. I got my t-shirt that says pedantic with purpose. But you might say, but Paige, sponsorship, that word sponsorship is not found in the first 164 pages. No, but the job description's all over it, you know? So the name's not there, but the role and responsibility is. And this is who I'm called to be. This is who I'm called to be as a sponsor, as somebody that is carrying this message. And I want to contextualize something. We are in the chapter, There is a Solution. And the solution that we have is a spiritual awakening. But I talk a lot about how the most sure sign that I have had a spiritual awakening is the desire to share it with somebody else, which I always then promptly add, that does not mean if you don't want to work with others that you don't have to, because you're like, see, I'm not spiritually awakened, I don't want to do it. No, go do it anyways. You do it, then you'll feel like doing it. You know what I mean? Yeah. And so, but there's this beautiful description that I heard, where it's like, if you've ever seen the most incredible sunset, where you're listening to music that is just it's incredible, you know, like a music that you're just like, this is it. What's that thing inside of you that you want to do? You want to go share that with someone. Sometimes you take a picture of the sunset so you can share it. That's what it's like on the spiritual journey. When I experience that awakening, man, it's how could I not want to share it with others? How could I not want others to experience that which I have experienced? Which of course is at baseline, the mental obsession, the thought, the desire to drink, to use drugs, to act in a compulsive way, that is gone. But deeper than that, there is a thing that happened. And it's like some cracks open. It cracked open in me. And it's like that I awakened to this unconditional love of a God that I didn't like and I didn't believe in and I thought was lame when I got here. I'm after an experience, but when I have this experience, how could I not want to share it with others? And this is how I am called to share it with others. It says, that the man, now ladies, this does not mean that you don't get to work with others. Oh, that's men's work. No, we're working with people. Now we're gonna go help them. It says that the man who is making the approach. Now I'm gonna pause there. This is important. I make the approach. I make the approach. I don't wait for them to, yeah, Rob's got it in the chat. I don't wait for them to approach me. I gotta go approach them. And so you guys are like, oh no, she's going to talk about wearing pants. In 2024, we can attend a Zoom meeting and we don't have, I promise I'm wearing pants. That's pants. But you don't have to, as long as you keep the camera up, you don't got to wear pants. So the amount of effort it takes to get to a meeting is minimal. So the least that I could do is go get their number. Go get their number. It's beautiful to put my number in the chat, but if I'm on Zoom, go ask and see. I give them mine, but go see if I can get theirs. Because I've been in in-person meetings as well for because Zoom wasn't a thing when I got sober, but they got in-person meetings and they would in the place that I live in the world. If there's a newcomer, they'll have a little newcomer packet, and everyone will go around and put their name and number on it. And I will let you know, I probably get a call a year, one a year off of those. I don't know if you're like me. I don't call people if I'm hurting, if I'm struggling. And you know what? No, that's not going to happen. But if I can get their number, I can just send them a little text. I can just get a conversation going. You know what I'm saying? It's the least that I can do. And then when they stop responding, you can bug them a little bit, then it's all good. You know what I'm saying? It's the least that I can do in 2024. Go make the approach so that the man who is making the approach has had the same difficulty, that we have that common problem. And it says that he obviously knows what he is talking about. And that knows what he is talking about is not me just memorizing facts or memorizing stuff. That I'm able to relate what my experience is with the diagnosis that is in this book. That I'm able to share from my own experience about the allergy. That I'm able to share from my own experience about the mental obsession. And even though the spiritual malady is not diagnostic of this illness, what I mean by that is that human beings have the spiritual malady. I hope dogs don't. But sorry, I just mid sentence, I was like, oh, my dog isn't spiritually sick. Oh, I got some issues, guys. Codependent. But human beings have the spiritual malady. I like to joke that if you're like, oh, I don't know if normal people have the spiritual malady. Go check out your HOA or PTA. You know what I mean? I assume people are happy at Costco because they have free samples, but you go on a crowded Costco day, I'm sure around the holidays, I'm sure you'll find some spiritually sick individuals. I'm not judging, I'm observing. My sponsor does not let me get away with that. But it's not diagnostic, but I want you to know there are times it can be helpful. You see, when I'm working with people who have been dry a long time, where they've done the work and put down the daily program of action, and they're starting to get crunchy. It's actually far more useful in those times to share my experience with the spiritual malady, what it's like to be dry and untreated, And so that's the thing. It's like I am making the approach, and I need to know what I'm talking about. So be able to match my experience with what's in this book, but to do so in a way that is helpful. And it says that he obviously knows what he's talking about, that his whole deportment shouts at the new prospect that he is a man with a real answer. And I love that line. And despite the fact that I know I can get a little enthusiastic, my job is not to yell at the newcomer. Also, it gets bad when I get tired. I feel like when people ask me to do talks at like 6 a.m., I'm like, like I'm just yelling because I'm not awake enough to have volume control. So my job is not to yell I'm not shouting at the newcomer, but that my deportment shouts at the newcomer. And my deportment for me is not how I'm dressed. Although Throckmorton, I mean, that should carry a message. I mean, that's true. But my deportment for me is far deeper than how I'm dressed. My deportment is the light that is on in my eye. Hopefully that's on in my eye. That lifted spirit, that warmth, that friendliness, do you know what I mean? Those intangible things. You guys know when you have been at a meeting with people that are dry, and it's like you don't have a cigarette. Yeah, you don't have a cigarette next to them because you're like, oh, they're gonna go up like kindling, and only we can prevent forest fires. You know what I mean? Like we don't want to smoke next to them, right? And somebody like that gives me any sort of direction. No, thank you. But do you know those people that are able to laugh at themselves? Not take themselves so seriously. Oh, I'm quoting a bunch of random speakers, but Mark Houston, I'm sure, I know he got it from somewhere else, but he would talk about wearing the world as a loose garment. Those people that are able to wear the world as a loose garment. They don't take themselves so seriously. They're able to show up, and you can tell they genuinely care about other people. That is the deportment. That is what shouts. When we are connected to a power greater than ourselves, man, that does the shouting. I don't gotta yell. And I used to, for a long time, I used to joke that I have a hardcover big book because I would beat the willingness. But no, no. In 12 steps, we use our words. That's important. And also, if you've seen this bad boy, it's falling apart. I can't hit anyone with it. The doctor's opinion will go flying out. You know what I mean? I need that in place. So we use our words. So our deportment shouts. And if you guys remember, when my homeboy, Throckmorton, Emmy Thatcher, when he shows up, what did Bill say? He hadn't even opened his mouth. He hadn't said a word, but Bill was like, there's something about his eyes. He was inexplicably different. That's what we're talking about. You see, I'm called to be a demonstration. And the change in deportment is the result of the demonstration. The demonstration is the result of taking these actions on a daily basis. That's what's inevitable. And it says that he has no attitude. So a new prospect that he is a man with a real answer. I'm demonstrating that there is a real answer. That he has no attitude of holier than thou. Holier than thou. So that I'm shoulder to, and actually this is funnier when I'm in person, but that we are shoulder to shoulder upon this common journey. The reason it's funny in person, because I'll be sitting in the wheelchair, and so I'm like shoulder to shoulder on this common journey up there, and then I always like to joke, you can't put me on pedestals. They're not wheelchair accessible. There's not a way down. I'll just get stuck up there, and that's not safe. That is not ADA approved. So don't you put me on a pedestal. You know what I'm saying? But that not holier than thou, that I don't think I'm better than you because I'm recovered. Well, I am recovered, but I don't think I'm better than you because I'm recovered. I don't think I'm better than you because I'm sponsoring you, that I'm working with you to take you through this course of action. And it says nothing whatever except a sincere desire to be helpful. And that is a common theme that we see in relation to sponsoring, in relation to working with others. My job is to be helpful, not fix, not manage, not save, not cure, not put on my little Mighty Mouse cape. Burr, 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 here I am to save the day. My sponsors told me no capes, no capes. No, but to be helpful, The most helpful thing that I can do, by the way, and it's probably, I used to really enjoy helping people move. I can't do that anymore. I'm more of a tripping hazard than anything else. But it's not to necessarily help them move, but to lay down the simple kit of spiritual tools. That is the most helpful thing that I can do. And it says that there are no fees to pay. Thank goodness, because if you've ever worked with me, or I like going hard. I'm like, we're gonna go at least 2 hours a day, at least an hour a day. I'll try to get 2 out of you. Every day we're gonna go through this book line by line. We're gonna have an experience, and you're gonna be like, girl, you just want more money. You just want to charge an hourly rate. You know what I mean? No, that there are no fees. And I probably have an easier time saying no to service if I was paid. You know what I mean? Because I'm not. It's like, oh, well, let me be helpful, No axes to grind. So grinding of the axes. We don't got to get our weapons ready to win an argument. No axes to grind. No people to please. No lectures to be endured. But I will say, if you come to a Page Big Book study, there might be a tangent or two that you might have to endure. No lectures, but we'll go on some tangents. Thank you for your patience with me. I love you. All right. There are no people to please, no lectures to be endured. These are the conditions we have found most effective. And that's what I always want to look at. This is what I look at, genuinely. I always want to look at is how I am sponsoring others effective. In Bill's story, it talks about how each day my friends, Abby Thatcher, simple talk in our kitchen multiplies itself. And I always want to ask myself, is my sobriety multiplying? Is what I'm doing in carrying this message to others effective? Now, bear with me. If you're hearing me today and your stomach's like, whoop, oh, yeah, tangents only in this book, whoop. If you get like a little stomach where you're like, oh, I don't know, Paige. Man, I'm not calling I want to be clear, I'm not calling anyone out. If you're finding like how you're doing it isn't effective, man, I wasn't effective for a long time. Let's work together and see what we can do to be more effective in carrying this message. You know what I'm saying? And that's the purpose of this big book study. So that we get armed with facts about ourselves, and then some unfortunate, useless information from my tangents. You'll hear a lot about the migratory patterns of roseate spoonbills for no reason. I don't know why I'm like this. Uh, but primarily so that we're armed with facts about ourselves so that we can be effective in carrying this message. That's what I want to be. And it says, after such an approach, many take up their beds and walk again. Yeah, and oh, that's actually helpful because I don't know where exactly it is. That is a reference to a parable in the Bible. And if you're not religious and that's like, whoa, 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 bear with me with this. I'm just going to break down what is the meaning. Because in the 1930s, a lot of religious references was a little more commonly used in modern society. So it doesn't mean he's trying to force religion on us. But what is the story about? What is this reference about? What is this saying, take up their beds and walk again, mean for our purposes? And so in the story, now keep in mind, I am grossly paraphrasing. So if I am wrong, and I am often frequently wrong, feel free to correct me, but in the chat is where that's where the corrections happen. But the story is about this pit, and I believe it was called the Lazarus pit, and it was this like little body of water. And what would happen if every once in a while, in the story, in the legend, in the parable, an angel would come down and stir the water, and whoever was the first person into the water, they would be healed. Now, what that did is that meant that a lot of people who were experiencing health issues and disability, that they would have mats and they would stay right by that pit, the pit of the water, so that if the angel came down and first in, I got a shotgun. You can't call shotgun on me. Actually, oh, hold on. Yes, you can. Here in the rooms at 12 step, yep, we can call shotguns on miracles. You call shotgun on your miracle, but you got to work for that. You got to take the actions of 12 steps. So the angel would come down, stir the water, and whoever was first in would get healed. And then there was a gentleman, and he was on a mat, and he was paralyzed. And so with other people with other sorts of, barriers, like he had a significant barrier to being healed, and in the story, Jesus came and was asked him, would you like to be healed? And yeah. And the guy was like, dude, this is me paraphrasing how I paraphrase. He's like, I can't make it. And he's like, and then I guess in the thing, he said, rise up, you're healed. Now, for our purposes, what is the point of that parable? What is the point of that expression, many take up their beds and walk again? Well, the point for us, the takeaway for us, and if you're not open to religion, don't worry about it, but this is the takeaway. Those who are the least likely to be healed, there was no way he was going to be able to make it in there first. There was no possible way, are the ones that get healed. And is that not our case in the rooms of 12 steps? And is it not the case that the more hopeless we are, the better? Has that not been our experience? So that is the takeaway from that. And it says, none of us makes a sole vocation of this work. A vocation is a job, like paid employment. And it says, nor do we think its effectiveness would be increased if we did. So it would not be more effective if we were paid to do this. Anyone here ever, maybe I won't call you, yeah, you guys, you raise your hands if you want. Anyone here ever get a little resentful at your boss? And yeah, your paid employment, they don't appreciate, yeah, we got the hands going on that one. Yeah, you guys know what's up. Your paid employment, they don't appreciate you. And bear with me. There are beautiful, wonderful, and people that are kind and loving in the helping professions. But if you're like me, you show up to a professional and you're like, you don't really want to help me. You're just doing that for a paycheck. You know what I'm saying? So we don't think we would be more effective if we were paid to do this work. And it says, we feel that elimination of our drinking is but a beginning. That is an important line. Sobriety, this was wild. This was a radical piece of information. Sobriety is not a solution. to my alcoholism. Sobriety is not a solution to my addiction. Abstinence is not a solution. And how often I just got to be sober. I just got to be sober. Sobriety is not a solution. We know that to be true because every time we drank again, every time we used again, every time we relapsed, we were sober. We were sober. Sobriety is not a solution. And that is annoying. So what is? It says a much more important demonstration. Oh man, what do you mean? I can't just go and natter to my family about the virtues of the fourth step? You mean I got to demonstrate it? Lame. So a much more important demonstration of our principles lies before us in our respective homes, occupations, and affairs. Don't live, listen, some of you are like, we have affairs? No, we don't, no, let's not do that. No. Our homes, our jobs, and all areas of our life. That's what it's saying. Some of you are like, Paige told me I could do what I want. No, Paige didn't. Paige just quantifying it. And I love this. A much more important demonstration of our principles. Now, some of you guys know I take a little bit of a, not super controversial because I am codependent and I need you to like me. But there are no people to please, so don't feel like you have to. I got inventory, I'm good. But the track that I take is that the spiritual principles are not nebulous concepts behind the steps. Instead, what I take, and if you disagree, you're right. You're right, I'm wrong. But genuinely, I take the track and the tact that they are the tangible actions of the 12 steps. And that is what I need to practice in my home and my work and in all areas of my life, the tangible actions. Anyone here ever been stuck in traffic and then had a hard time pulling tolerance out of whatever orifice that one comes out of? You know what I mean? Anyone here ever spend some time at the HOA or the PTA or Costco or last minute Christmas shopping? And it is real hard to pull that love out of, it's not in the shopping cart. I couldn't buy it at Costco. You know what I mean? Understanding and forgiveness, couldn't get that, anyone ever have to, that like family member that like pushes all your buttons and you feel like you can't say no to? Anyone ever just been able to be like, oh well, yes, here is some honesty. I got to do the work to be able to do those things. And keep in mind, sometimes I've worked with people where they're under the belief that, okay, what I'm going to do is I'm going to have my little 12-step life over here. I'm going to do my AA here, or my CA here, or my whatever fellowship here. And then I'm going to have work over here. I'm going to have all these family here, gym here, like these different baskets. And that's not what this is. This is how I live all areas of my life. I bring the tangible actions of the 12 steps of this way of life into all areas of my life. And that is what it is talking about. Now, this is important. It says all of us. So that all, highlight, underline, and it says much of our spare time in the sort of effort which we're going to describe. The effort they're talking about is that 12-step work. So all of us. Now, if you remember in the forward to the second edition, we were talking about the success rates, and we were seeing 50 to 75%. Keep in mind, if we're hanging out with Paige on a Monday, our success rate is 0. We are rocking a 0% success rate. Otherwise, he would be hanging out doing something else. I don't think you care about my bird tangents that much. I think you're here because you are going to die if we're not doing this way of life, or some of you might be here for the bird tangents. I don't know. But the all of us. So if I want that success rate, if I want permanent, contented sobriety, by the way, that is what is on offer. Permanent, contented sobriety. I got to work at it every single day, this way of life, but permanent, contented sobriety. If I want that, I need to spend much of my spare time in the sort of effort we are going to describe. Much of my spare time has got to be spent working with others. That is not to say that you cannot have hobbies, or you can't have other activities. But I always say, if I am not at least a little bit inconvenienced, I don't have enough sponsees. You know what I mean? I gotta be at least a little inconvenienced. That is the gauge. Why? Why? Because I don't really have a good gauge of what's good for me in that respect. You know what I'm saying? And I think, listen, I think water polo. I was gonna water polo and horse polo. I don't know. I'm really not good at hobbies. Yeah, because there's the water polo and then there's the one with horses, which is regular polo. Polo means ball. But I did have a friend one time who saw somebody with a water polo shirt, and my friend was like, "I wonder what their horses looked like." So we absolutely laughed about that for a long time, uh, like horses swimming. So if you have time, if you want to start your hybrid water polo league where horses are swimming, you can do that. But I've got to work with others. I've got to be a little inconvenienced. I can have spare time. I know. I'm so sorry. Seahorses, yeah, that's what it's for. The sports. But that Christmas, I got my friend a water polo shirt just for them. Because I am a good friend, but also a bit of a jerk. Uh, it was funny. But that I get to have hobbies, but much of my spare time has got to be working with others. It goes on to say, a few are fortunate enough to be so situated that they can give nearly all their time to the work. That's me. I don't have a lot of spare time anymore because I had a lot of time and I do a lot of this and it's rad. And as a result of that, I don't know how water polo works. I actually do. I want to know how water polo works. It doesn't have horses. If you want that, you got to find the land-based horse-related polo known as polo. All right. And it's an interesting thing because when people read this paragraph, they often take the line, none of us makes a sole vocation of this work, to mean like, oh, well, we don't need to go too hard at working with others. But that bottom sentence disproves that theory, that if few are fortunate enough to be so situated, they can give nearly all their time to the work. So that vocation is not, oh, don't work too hard with others. Now, a couple times in the book, it's like, if you're going to go overboard anywhere, go overboard working with others carrying this message. That cannot be what that sentence means. So that vocation means paid employment. So I just want to contextualize that. And yeah, and if I'm wrong, that's fine. I don't know if that's a hill. I don't think I need 4 hills that I die upon, but maybe, who knows? I don't know. And it says, if we keep on the way we are going, there is little doubt that much good will result. Now, the way upon which they are going is one alcoholic carrying this message to another, one to another. They were seeing that it was working and people were getting sober. So if we keep on, there's no doubt that much good will result of that. But the surface of the problem will hardly be scratched. So we know that we won't be able to help all the people we know that need help. Those who live in large cities are overcome by the reflection that close by hundreds are dropping into oblivion every day. And for those of us that live in large cities, is that sometimes still our experience? That there are people who are dying of this illness, dropping into oblivion every day. And it says many could recover if they have the opportunity we have enjoyed. And I just want to point something out. Before I take the actions of the 12 steps, man, it feels like a penance, it feels like a death sentence, or like the gates of hell have, oh man, I got nothing left. I better go work these steps, trudging in the gulag of working the 12 steps. It feels like that, but it's an opportunity. And I don't realize that it's an opportunity when I get here. And I love that it says that it is an opportunity we have enjoyed. Now, you don't have to be as jazzed about things like inventory or amends as I am. I had my hoodie that says inventory behooves me. It does. You don't have to feel that way about it. But I want you to know there is enjoyment, not just as the result of this way of life, but there is enjoyment in this way of life. That is what I've found. I've enjoyed. I enjoy inventory. And if you're like, she is out of her mind, that is fair. That might be true, but I will. Yeah. So you're like, oh, but my experience is like, do inventory until I enjoy it. That will happen. Because I get the benefits from it. There's so much fun and joy in this way of life, truly, genuinely, there's so much joy. And honestly, if like when I help people with inventory, we're always laughing. We laugh when we are prepping for amends. You know what I mean? There is joy in this thing in the middle of it. So many could have recovered if they have the opportunity we have enjoyed. Again, recover. Recover does not mean cured, but we're looking at recovered. How then shall we present that which has been so freely given us? So how can we share with others what has been freely given to us? We have concluded to publish an anonymous volume setting forth the problem as we see it. This book. So to carry this message, to not have the message lost like playing the telephone game. What they did. Wrote this book, anonymous volume, this one. We got it. We're reading it. Amazing. And it says, we shall bring to the task our combined experience and knowledge. And here's the thing. Bill Wilson, I think he really did want it to be, in some ways, far more of a group conscience text than it was. A lot of times I'll talk about like the myths of AA and like what's true and reconcile the difference. So the truth of the matter is Bill Wilson didn't get a whole lot of feedback. Akron was like, no, thank you. We don't want involved. And then everyone in New York, I'm paraphrasing, but everyone in New York was like, no, Bill, we love it. Except Hank, who was like, I have these ideas. And Bill was probably like, not you, Hank, not you. That's how I imagined it went. So a lot of the big book was Bill Wilson dictating and Ruth Hawk was typing it out on a typewriter. That was a lot of what it looked like. But Bill wanted it to be far more of a group conscience textbook than it was. But the parable of that sentence is the idea that if I'm arguing with something that's in the book, I'm not just arguing with one person. I'm arguing with the first 180 members. But even if Bill did not have as much input from all the other members as he wanted, or has been told in AA lore, the truth of the matter is, I believe that the more of us who do this work become a part of the we. So we're not just arguing with Bill, we're arguing with Bill and the first 100 and those of us who have recovered as the result of this work. And so that is how this book continues to be a group conscience textbook, even if it wasn't quite so much originally. Just a fun little thing. And it says, this should suggest a useful program for anyone concerned with the drinking problem. So where does the program come from? Well, the program is contained in this book. It is contained in this book. It does. You're right. It comes from God. Absolutely. I got you. I see that. But where would I find the directions? The directions are found within the pages of this book. That is the program. Meetings are wonderful. I love meetings, but they're not the program. Service, so important. Genuinely so important. Go chair meetings. Go, I don't think there's ashtrays to clean anymore, but go clean the ashtrays. Go be of service. But that is not the program. It's helpful, it's important. Meetings, helpful and important. But the program is the 12 steps as laid out in the book Alcoholics Anonymous. That is the program. So when it says this should suggest a useful program for anyone concerned with the drinking problem, two things. One is it is suggested, because, the program is suggesting you don't have to take it if you don't want to do it. But if I have the illness that is outlined in this book, we in some trouble. You know what I mean? It's like, it's suggested. Just like, and I know everyone's sick of this one. Just like when you go skydiving, it's strongly recommended that I pull the parachute. It's no one will make me, but I got, it's like that. And I will point out, we don't have an alternative suggestion. If you're like, that sounds awful, I don't like that suggestion, fair enough. We don't got a different one. We don't have like 12, like diet 12 step or like sugar-free or gluten-free. I mean, they are sugar-free if you're diabetic. You can work the steps. And if you're celiac, you're welcome. Like, it's all good. But you know what I mean? We don't got a different option. We got the 12 steps to produce a spiritual awakening. That's what we got. And it says of necessity. So this is kind of, we have to. There will be discussion of matters medical, psychiatric, social, and religious. We are aware that these matters are, from their very nature, controversial. Nothing would please us so much as to write a book which would contain no basis for contention or argument. So we're like, hey, we're going to have to talk about things that pertain to medicine, religion, society, sociology, psychology, and we know that people have strong opinions about that, and that could be controversial. We don't want to cause controversy with this book. Wild. An alcoholic not wanting to stir the pot? Can we just take a moment? Right? And it says, we shall do our utmost to achieve this ideal. Now, this next line in the last few years has, I think it's become more and more true and more important. Most of us sense that a real tolerance of other people's shortcomings and viewpoints and a respect for their opinions are attitudes which make us more useful to others. And keep in mind, I am here to be useful. You know, in the third, this is how I view it. We'll talk about it when we get there. In the third step, I get my formal walking papers. I get my pink slip. For those in the UK, Dell, I get my P45. In step 3, I get fired from the management position of my life. I am fired. It's, oh gosh, no worries. Camera off is totally fine. I am not bothered by any of that. But I'm fired from the management position of my life. The reason being gross incompetence. I don't know, we're in step 1, but I don't know if your experience is like mine. Like, ooh, it's not good. It's not good. Like, my life is unmanageable. I managed it. Uh-oh, I managed my life. Oh, it's also known as a UB40 or a dole card. Get your spiritual. Let me know if you need a spiritual P45, a spiritual pink slip, or a spiritual dole card. I got you. I'll help you get 5 for the management position of your life, right? It was unmanageable. And I need a new manager. And in the third step, it gives me this employment contract, this way in which I can orientate myself to this power. And from there, I go and I work for this power. And it's this idea of like, I'm not in the upper management. You know what's in upper management? Results. Results are none of my business. What is my business is showing up and being useful to others. That's my job. That's my job. And to be of maximum service to God and the people about us. And I gotta keep doing this work to do that. So this next sentence, you can highlight, you can underline, you can draw little capybaras beside it. If you don't know what a capybara is, it is a delightful large rodent. It's delightful, I promise. I'm getting some looks like you haven't sold me on this. I know. Oh gosh, I've been adding little visuals to the recordings, and I just feel like I'm gonna have to put a picture of a capybara on the recording. And like as soon as I said that, I've made more work for myself. And it's so like I'm watching myself make my evening go longer. Just unmanageability right here. So highlight, underline, stars beside, draw a unicorn or a capybara. You can draw your roseate spoonbill right here. It says our very lives as ex-problem drinkers depend upon our constant thought of others and how we might meet their needs. This is important. My very life is dependent upon my constant thought of others and how I can help them. You ever hear it's a selfish program? I don't know if that tracks. Doesn't seem to be, does it? Seems to be a me getting connected with God and helping others program. God, higher power, creator, spirit of the universe, right? My life is dependent on getting out of self and thinking about you. And so it says, you may have already asked why it is that all of us became so very ill from drinking. And why did we become so very ill from drinking? Well, we have that physical allergy that once I start, I cannot stop. And it says, doubtless you are curious to discover how and why, in the face of expert to the opinion to the contrary, we have recovered. There is the hope, recovered from a hopeless condition of mind and body. And my hopeless condition of mind is the mental obsession. You can make a little note if you know how to make space for it. Make a little note. Hopeless condition of mind, mental obsession. And that is the thought that I have when I am as sober as I am today, when I am as sober as I am today, and my illness is untreated, that thought that I have that says this time will be different, nobody will ever know. Go out for 3 drinks. You know, your problem was booze, but Paige, you can smoke crack like a lady. You know, that sort of thinking. Got to get it out of my system. That, right? That is the mental obsession. And when we talk about we have recovered from a hopeless condition of body, what we're talking about is that physical allergy. So I'd smoke that crack and things get real unladylike real quickly because I need more. And the more that I drink or use, the more I need to drink or use. You know what I'm saying? That is our hopeless condition. I have an allergy of the body. Once I start, I can't stop. But I have an obsession of the mind, a thought that brings me back again and again and again to that first drink, despite the fact I know it's ruining my life. So it says, if you are an alcoholic who wants to get over it, because if you don't want to, you don't have to. Nobody's going to make you. We're not. But if you are who wants to get over it, who wants freedom, and if you're like, man, I'm not even sure. If you're sitting through me going through animal-related tangents in a whole water polo section, girl, I think you're pretty hopeless. I think you're willing to do some work. You know, I think we're ready to get into inventory, right? It says, if you're an alcoholic who wants to get over it, you may already be asking, what do I have to do? Do. I want to emphasize do, because this is a program of action. Not thinking about it, not talking about it, not discussing it in meetings, but action. There's a course of action. And it says, it is the purpose of this book. That would be such a great name for a Big Book study that happens here at Big Book Compendium on Wednesdays. The same time, the same Zoom code, double the David, double the fun. Oh gosh. Sorry. It is the purpose of this book to answer such questions specifically. So the purpose of this book is to specifically give you and I instructions and directions on how do I go from that hopeless state of mind and body to a place of recovery. How do I recover from this illness? That is the whole purpose of this book. And it says specifically, that's why we're studying it, because we want to get the directions. And it says, and I love this, and I'm going to end at this paragraph. I am aware of the time. We shall tell you what we have done. We shall tell you what we have done. Not here's what we think you need to do. Man, shoulder to shoulder. No holier than thou attitude. This is the actions that we have taken. Here's what we have done. Not an intellectual in an ivory tower that's like, oh yes, the alcoholics and the drug addicts, best practices are. No, I don't listen to best practices. Absolutely not. Don't tell me what to do in your lab coat. I'm going to do the opposite. Go back to me in the 90s watching Maury on the couch. I do what I want, you know? No. But here's what we have done. And this is a book of experience, sharing the experience. And so we shall tell you what we've done. Before going into a detailed discussion, it may be well to summarize some points as we see them. And we're going to have a look at those points when we kick off next week. So I'll stop the recording and we can wrap up with a prayer.